It was supposed to be a perfect autumn day at the pumpkin patch, but the helpful stranger with a warm smile was hiding a secret that would forever change how I see safety. I didn't think anything of it at first, just a guy in a tan jacket lending a hand. The chaos of Harvest Day felt wholesome, exactly the kind of memory parents want to capture. He blended in seamlessly, carrying crates, fixing games, always moving just out of frame when cameras lifted. My skin didn't prick until the farm owner asked who he was, because he wasn't supposed to be there. I pointed to the parking lot where he stood, watching the line of preschoolers head to the petting zoo. His eyes weren't on the animals. They were fixed on the children. When the owner walked over, the man's hands slid into his pockets, waiting. That's when I realized I never got his name. We hurried the kids onto the hayride, counting heads twice. When we returned, he was gone. The owner met me at the cider tent, phone in hand, face pale. He showed me a bulletin, a mug shot with the same eyes, the same smile. Wanted for interstate offenses involving minors. The deputy came quietly, no sirens. Parents kept taking pictures, unaware. They searched but found only boot prints fading toward the road. That night I couldn't sleep. I replayed his calm voice, how he'd stood just behind me. Sometimes the scariest part isn't what happened. It's realizing how close it came. The next Harvest Day, I saw a tan jacket in the lot again. My heart stopped. It was just a dad helping his kid. He waved. I waved back, but I didn't relax until he left. Now every field trip starts with badge checks and head counts. The kids sing, parents snap photos, and everything looks normal. But my eyes always drift to the edges of those pictures, scanning for anyone who looks like they belong when they don't. Halloween in Madison was our annual ritual. State Street transformed into a moving carnival, a sea of costumes and laughter. That year, I wore silver wings. My roommates were a disco queen and a vampire. We joined the crowd, buzzing with that pre-night optimism. Amid the vibrant chaos, a figure in plain black stood out. Black jeans, hoodie, and a cheap hardware store mask. No expression, no props. He stayed a few people behind us, mirroring our moves. It wasn't aggressive, just parallel. And that was worse. Inside a bar, we danced and forgot him for 20 minutes. Then we stepped back into the cold. And there he was again, for people back, the same blank mask catching the streetlight. He's still following us, I told my friend. She shrugged. Creeps love crowds. They hide in plain sight. At every stop, he hovered across the street, leaning against a lamppost or slipping behind taller costumes whenever I looked. His stillness was unnerving. Everyone else was laughing, stumbling. He held himself like he was on duty. Around 11, I ducked into a sidebar for the bathroom. Pushing out the back door for air, I found myself in a quiet alley with one weak lamp overhead. And at the far end, he was there. Same mask, same stance, facing me dead on. I called out, but he didn't respond. The door opened behind me, spilling laughter, and I slipped back inside. We left with the crowd, arms linked. Every time I turned, I caught a flicker of him, half hidden, gliding when we did. Never rushing, never close enough to grab. That calm made my stomach twist worse than any chaos. By midnight, we were done. We turned off State Street toward our car, the noise fading behind us. I looked back. Nothing. He's gone, I said, relief washing over. We piled into the car, blasting heat. My phone buzzed, a friend asking for the pic with the creepy guy. I scrolled through our photos. Bathroom mirror shots, crowded street selfies, a blurry one from across the street. I zoomed in, expecting to see that black figure somewhere in the mix. He wasn't in any of them. Not one. Even in photos where I knew he'd been right behind us. The next day, we went to campus police. The officer listened, wrote it down, and said, "Patterns matter." We gave him the photos, the ones without him. He nodded like it wasn't the first time he'd heard something like that. We left with a pamphlet on crowd safety. Maybe he was just a guy in a mask who knew how to stay unseen. Maybe the photos missed him. Maybe my mind filled in blanks. I've told myself all the versions. None feel right. Real horror hides in the ordinary, and sometimes it looks right at you. The next Halloween, we went back. We stayed in bigger groups, checked in every hour. The street was still chaos, still fun. But now I catch myself scanning the crowd for the plainest costume in sight. October in Salem sells itself. The old colonials with wavy glass windows and fireplaces that still smell of ash whisper their own stories. My job was to unlock the door and let people fall in love. That Saturday morning was crisp, the kind that makes your breath hang like fog. I arrived early to prep the open house. A 2-story white colonial with black shutters, empty except for my staging pieces. A few pumpkins on the steps, a folded throw blanket, an unlit cinnamon candle. The key clicked in the lockbox, a comforting sound of control. The door opened with a soft groan. I adjusted the thermostat, checked light bulbs, opened blinds. Then, halfway down the front hall, I saw them, 2 muddy footprints. Men's boots, size maybe 10 or 11, leading from the den toward the door. The house had been locked since the contractor left 2 days ago. The floors were spotless then. I knelt. The tread had a broken chevron pattern. The smell of damp earth mixed with something stale, like flat beer. I straightened and looked toward the den. A soft draft drifted from the far window, the bottom sash raised barely an inch. Then a sound, a faint scrape like wire brushing against wood, coming from the parlor closet. I stepped outside, called the non-emergency line, and waited on the porch, trying to look casual. Across the street, in the park, a man in a long, grimy green coat stood behind a tree, facing the house. He had matted hair and an aimless sway. When a couple walked past, he ducked his head as if checking a phone that wasn't there. My hand hovered over the deadbolt. Then the scrape inside again, quicker now, like something shifting against hangers. I closed the door, locked it, and kept my eyes fixed on the man under the tree. Minutes stretched. Finally, 2 police cruisers rounded the corner. Relief washed over me, sharp, almost painful. I told them everything. Footprints, open window, noises inside. They went in. From the porch, I heard their steps, the creak of boards, a door opening, then silence. Across the street, the younger officer approached the man in the coat. He didn't run. He just stood there, hands moving in clumsy gestures. The older officer came back out. They'd found the source. The man had slipped in the day before after the contractor forgot to latch the window. He'd been sleeping in the den, using an old staging blanket. He wasn't violent, just drunk, disoriented, looking for a warm place to crash. "Looks like you startled him as much as he startled you," the officer said with a smile. I nodded, but it didn't feel funny. I kept thinking how I'd walked through the house alone, humming, completely unaware someone might have been crouched behind a door. They took him to a shelter. I wiped away the muddy prints until the floor gleamed. I could have canceled the open house, but professionalism is equal parts pride and denial. So I stayed. By 1 p.m., the first couple arrived, all smiles and pumpkin spice optimism. They didn't notice I kept glancing at the front door. The house filled with laughter, footsteps echoing where only mine had been that morning. It almost felt normal. Almost. At one point, I caught myself watching the parlor closet door. I tried to laugh at myself, Salem realtor afraid of her own listing. The open house ended with 3 solid leads. But when I locked up, that calm didn't return. I double-checked every window and door. The following weekend, hosting another open house, I found myself automatically scanning corners, listening for quiet sounds that shouldn't exist. I still love old houses. I still stage mantles with pumpkins. But now I keep one eye on the door. People in Salem joke about hauntings, about things that go bump in the night. But ghosts don't leave footprints. And I'd rather take a ghost any day because fear of a ghost sells stories. Fear of a person sells locks. I took the hayride job for extra cash and a bit of peace. Stamp hands, count heads, wave the flatbed out into the fields. Kids squealed. Parents sipped cider. Couples took photos under string lights. Our boss, Tom, was strict about one thing counts. 20 up, 20 back. Write it down every time, he'd say. By mid-October, I could almost time it. 5 rides a night, 15 minutes each. That Saturday felt like every other until it didn't. At 8:15, a group of teenagers showed up, 19 total. I clicked my counter, jotted it down, and told D, the tractor driver. 19 and maybe 2 more coming. D, an old bus driver with nerves of steel, shrugged. Close enough. The wagon rumbled off. I waited with a couple who'd arrived late. Then my radio crackled. You got a copy station? It was D. Go ahead, I said. Check your sheet. I got 20. I frowned. You left with 19. Count again. I've got 20. I looked around the lot. No one had slipped in. The gate was chained. The other tractor parked. Maybe someone ran up late. If they did, I didn't see them. Her voice turned uneasy. They're quiet, just sitting in the back. When the wagon returned, families climbed down laughing, brushing hay from their coats. I counted 17, 18, 19. That was it. Where's your extra? I asked. Dee looked pale. They were there the whole ride. Last row. I stepped onto the wagon. There it was, a hollow in the straw, shaped like someone had just stood up, still warm. Tom didn't buy it. Probably miscounted. Cold night. Kids bundled up. Maybe he was right. Still, I wrote it on my clipboard. Driver reports extra passenger. The next ride went fine. So did the next. Then, right before closing, Dee radioed again. Not funny anymore. Is back. She sounded serious now. Same spot, far corner. When they returned, I counted 19 again. The back seat was empty, but the straw showed the same imprint. Sunken deep, still warm. I told Tom. He rolled his eyes. It's Halloween season. Folks get spooked. Probably some kid hiding under a blanket and jumping early. We added a cone at the back step to stop riders from slipping off. The next night, the cone didn't help. At 7:50, Dee's voice came over the radio again. He's here. I didn't even ask who. I just knew. We decided I'd ride the last trip with her. Just to confirm, Tom said, pretending not to be nervous. I climbed on, flashlight in my lap, clipboard wedged between hay bales. 20 passengers, I told Dee. She nodded. Let's see what happens. The ride started quiet. Families joked. Kids giggled when the scarecrow props lit up. The night felt almost normal. At the halfway point, I recounted 20. I did it again, still 20. And then, near the far corner of the field, the wagon shifted just slightly, like someone had leaned forward from the last row. I turned my flashlight on. The straw was still, but the back end of the wagon looked heavier. Dee, I said, my voice thin. I feel it, she replied. Neither of us turned around. When the tractor hit the final stretch, I heard 2 soft thuds like boots dropping from a step. The weight eased. Back at the gate, I counted again. 20 riders, all human, all present. The impression was there again. Deep, warm, and unmistakable. Tom's face lost its usual color when I showed him. We'll check the cameras, he said. We did. The footage showed the wagon loading up, people boarding, laughing, waving. Then it rolled out toward the field, but when it came back, for one frame just before stopping, something blurred across the bottom of the image. Pale, human-shaped, crouched near the back corner. Lens flare, Tom muttered. Lens flare doesn't cast shadows, I said. He didn't answer. That night, we found a small black duffel bag on the counter in the barn office. None of us had seen anyone bring it in. Inside was a yellowed hospital wristband, a folded piece of paper with the name Andrew, and a photo album. The pictures were old, early 2000s, maybe. They showed our hayride wagon, the same field, same gate. In one photo, a boy sat in the back row, elbows on knees, staring toward the horizon. A white hospital band glinted on his wrist. Tom sighed. Probably some local kid playing a trick. Drop it off at the sheriff's office in the morning. He zipped the bag shut. That's when Dee called from outside. Hey, there's a guy here asking about lost and found. Says he left a bag. Tom and I exchanged looks. He whispered, play it normal. I stayed behind the counter while he went to meet the man. Gray jacket, brown hair, calm face. Left my bag here, he said. Black duffel, small. Tom asked for ID. The man patted his pockets. Must have left it in the car. What's your name? Andrew. Tom froze for just a second before saying, "Wait here." He stepped outside toward the lot. I saw him gesture to the deputy parked near the entrance. The man looked at me through the counter window. His smile didn't change. "Long night?" he asked. "Always," I said, keeping my hand near the radio. He nodded slowly like he was listening for something behind me. "You looked in the album, didn't you?" Before I could answer, the door swung open. The deputy stepped in, calm but firm. "Sir, let's talk outside." The man's eyes flicked between us. "It's mine," he said. Then he went with the deputy. No struggle, no argument. We handed the bag and album over to the sheriff that night. They logged everything, thanked us, and left. By the next morning, both the bag and the album were gone. "Transferred," they said. We changed protocol. Every ride double counted. One staffer on board. Rope across the back step. Nothing strange happened after that. I don't believe in ghosts. Not really. But I believe in repetition. Things that loop until they find the ending they were supposed to have. Every October, my friends and I went to the same drive-in. Blankets in the hatchback, popcorn salt everywhere, and an old horror double feature glowing against the night. It was our tradition, half nostalgia, half excuse to escape whatever the world was doing. That year, the marquee red creature from the Black Lagoon and Night of the Living Dead. We got there early, parked near the center, and set up our little nest of quilts and snacks. Felt timeless, like we'd slipped into another decade. Kids ran between cars, chasing glow sticks. A couple danced near the concession stand, and every now and then, a breeze rippled through the blankets. I leaned back, listening to the radio crackle the film's sound through the car speakers. Halfway through the first movie, I volunteered to grab more popcorn. Each step echoed off the parked cars, and for a second, I thought I heard someone pacing alongside me. Probably my imagination. The night had that kind of acoustics. At the counter, a tired teenager slid a bag toward me through a plexiglass window. "Enjoy the show," he said. I turned back toward our car, juggling popcorn and soda when something moved low between two rows. A crouched figure slipping from shadow to shadow. They held a flashlight close to the ground. At first, I thought it was a staff member looking for something someone dropped. But the closer I looked, the more off it seemed. They weren't wearing any kind of uniform, just dark clothes and a ski mask pulled down to the neck. The flashlight jerked, flashing briefly across something long and metallic in their other hand. For a heartbeat, I stood there telling myself it was fake. A prop, a prank, anything that would make sense at a drive-in showing horror movies. Then the flashlight swung toward me. I ducked behind a pickup truck, trying to calm my breathing and not make a sound. The beam lingered on the ground where I'd just been. I could hear the low crunch of their boots. The crowd laughed at something on the screen, oblivious. I waited until the light drifted away, then moved quickly back toward our car, keeping to the dark gaps between bumpers. When I reached my car, I hissed, "Get in. Lock the doors." "What's going on?" Lauren whispered. "There's someone out there," I said. "Mask, flashlight. I think they're armed." She stared at me, waiting for the punchline. When it didn't come, she grabbed the key fob from my hand and hit lock. Somewhere in the distance, a horn blared. One long, endless blast. Another joined in, then another. The noise rose like an alarm. The radio crackled with the manager's voice. "Please stay in your vehicles. Security is responding." But people panicked anyway. Doors slammed. Engines started. Cars tried to move all at once. Headlights flared and blinded half the lot. Someone reversed into another car, crunching bumpers. The neat rows turned into chaos. In our mirror, a dark shape moved again. Running this time, weaving between cars. I caught a glimpse of the ski mask, the glint of metal, then nothing. "Start the car," Lauren said. I turned the key halfway, enough for power, but not the engine. Every brake light around us glowed red, tail lights painting the air. I could see kids crying in the back of a van, their parents yelling for everyone to stay put. My stomach clenched so hard it hurt. Then blue light cut across the lot. A patrol car pulled in, followed by another. Floodlights swept the rows, blinding and merciful all at once. The masked figure froze in their glare, still crouched, caught like an insect under glass. Officers shouted commands we couldn't hear through the glass. The person raised their hands slow, then dropped to their knees. The metal object, a gun, clattered to the gravel. For a long suspended moment, no one moved. Then one officer moved forward, cuffed the person, and guided them to the cruiser. The relief hit like exhaustion. My hands were shaking so badly I had to put them in my lap. The radio voice came back. All clear. Please remain in place until officers direct traffic. I watched the crowd begin to uncoil. Parents hugging their kids, couples whispering. The projector kept running, the film flickering on like it hadn't noticed any of it. The monster on the screen lunged forward and people actually laughed this time. Nervous, shaky laughter, but real. When it was our turn to leave, an officer waved us through. As we passed, I looked at the floodlit spot where the man had knelt. Popcorn and a single shoe lay on the gravel, surreal in their normalcy. The next morning, the drive-in posted an announcement online. No injuries reported. Increased security measures to be implemented immediately. It ended with a thank you for everyone's calm cooperation. I laughed out loud at that. Calm wasn't the word I'd use. 2 weeks later, we went back because that's what you do. You reclaim the places that scare you or they start to own too much space in your mind. The manager had kept his promise. New lighting, security patrolling every row, and only one exit lane. Still, when we parked, I found myself counting how many cars stood between me and that exit. I caught myself looking at the side mirrors more than the screen. Every crunch of gravel behind us made me stiffen. But the night stayed peaceful. A cop leaned on his cruiser near the gate, sipping coffee. Kids laughed again, but softer this time, like the world had collectively learned how easily the fun could tilt the other way. When the first movie started, the projector beam turned the air silver. It should have felt comforting. But all I could think about was how a shadow had once moved through that same beam, changing everything in seconds. Halfway through the movie, Lauren nudged me. You okay? I nodded, just paying attention. The truth was, I hadn't stopped paying attention since that night. It's funny. Fear doesn't always make you hide. Sometimes it makes you watch harder. Stay present in a way peace never demands. Now every October we still go back. We still bring blankets and cocoa, still argue about snacks. But we sit closer to the exit. Windows cracked. Eyes always scanning without even realizing. It's not paranoia. It's memory wearing a new shape. I used to think the magic of those nights came from nostalgia. Now I think it's from contrast. The comfort of routine brushing against the reminder of how fragile it really is. People like to say fear is irrational. I think it's the most rational thing we've got. It just tells the truth too bluntly. That night at the drive-in, it whispered in every engine rev and muffled scream, "You're never as safe as you think." And yet, we keep showing up. That's what humans do. We set up our blankets, pour the cocoa, and trust the light to hold the dark back just long enough for the credits to roll. The news barely covered the incident. Just a small piece about an armed man apprehended before hurting anyone. October still feels like movies, but I always park near the exit. Now, if these stories made you realize that real danger doesn't need ghosts, just the right night and the wrong person, smash that like button, hit subscribe to Winds of Thought so you never miss the next story. Let me know which one will be living in your head tonight. And if you've ever felt that chill on the back of your neck in a silent place, you're going to want to stick around for the next one. Thanks for watching. Stay alert. Stay safe. I'll see you in the next one.